the next segment I'm super excited about because it's the power of inclusive technology. This is one of my favorite sections as a storyteller and author because words have power. The nuance in words can create connection, division, right? And they can help us feel seen or acknowledged. So I'm going to invite Simran Mohnani to the stage. All right. Hey,
Hi.
Simran, how you
Hello.
doing?
Great, thank you.
Good to see you.
Same here.
Yeah, yeah.
Very special energy.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. We've actually been talking about the energy in women in tech.
Yeah.
I think Ellen said it feels safe, like a safe space, right?
Yeah, I'd really echo that.
Yeah, yeah. But I want to introduce you to the viewers, right? So Simran is an award-winning chemical engineer and climate tech manager at Deloitte, UK. She runs a wide diversity network at Deloitte, is a World Economic Forum Global Shaper, one Young World Ambassador, and has been named one of the top 100 women in UK tech, and JCI Malta's top 10 under 50 for her change-making work in the industry. Sim is passionate about combating stereotypes and enabling access to STEM opportunities regardless of your background. So I want to share a quote that comes from you, actually. It says, language is art, beauty, and storytelling, but it is also identity and our channels of interaction, innovation, and making our mark on the world. Can you just expand on that? It's a beautiful statement.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And this sentiment, I guess, comes from, being a woman, being a brown woman in STEM, in engineering, which is largely very male-dominated, and starting to realize that the language we talk every day, the tools we use and how those are built, really echoes the spaces we build for ourselves, right? And there's a really other powerful quote which talks about the real essence of this, which says that if we don't intentionally include, we unintentionally disclude. And the point to that is that we get to choose the spaces that we build and how we build them, right? So as part of Deloitte and this diversity network I run there called Codename Maxine, over 2021, kind of when the Black Lives Matter movement really kicked off, we started feeling this power of energy that there were a lot of engineers around the tech sphere from LinkedIn and Microsoft, Twitter, etc., who really spoke about language that had racial undertones, that was gendered. And we talk a lot about, gendered pronouns, but it goes way beyond that. We talk about like our code and how we use terms like blacklist and whitelist and how, blacklisting kind of really strengthens that connotation that black is bad. But why? And how do we rewrite things like that? So this inclusive tech terminology initiative that I set up together with my team really focuses on ironing out those gendered, ableist, racially undertoned languages from your code bases, but also from the tools that we build as technologists and also in our day-to-day conversations.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that kind of leads me into my next question in terms of examples of kind of how this innate bias might show up in code, in technology, in the spaces, innovative spaces. Can you give us kind of a few more kind of case studies or examples?
Yeah, sure. So within our initiative, we actually started out with kind of 5 key terms that we within our company itself we wanted to iron out, right? Because you can't really rebuild Rome in a day type thing. So we started with 5, but we actually broadened it out to about 30 terms. So I'll share some of those here today. So we kind of touched upon blacklist and whitelist. And I think that was one of the ones that hit the hardest because we use it so predominantly in technology. I think the second one that I would call out is master and slave node. So you write a piece of code and then you push it to the master. And it's very easy, actually, to change this non-inclusive instance to an inclusive one, right? You could say your primary branch or your secondary branch, and you understand, even if you come from a tech background or not, you would still understand that. And it kind of goes back to us predominantly making certain systems like finance or tech more complicated than they really need to be, right? So yes, it comes from an inclusive place, but it also comes just from being lean and efficient. And things like master and slave node aren't just rooted in your code, but you also find them on like cameras. There was a really powerful story I read, which talked about a black model who was really killing it, owning her space, representing fashion. And the camera person who was stood in front of her just went, okay, we've got to switch the lighting switch to the slave branch. And in that moment, that energy really changes because those words are rooted in trauma and in history that we aren't proud of. So we are the ones who, I guess, get to change that narrative. So yes, it goes from those racially undertoned terms like that, but also gendered ones, like we talk about man hours in consulting, right?
So
but why? It has been predominantly male default, but we can change it to person hours. And it also goes down to like ableist things, like we talk about our dummy term in coding, where it could just be a sample value, or we talk about a sanity check, right? So those are a couple of terms.
Like I want you to just keep going on more words. I love this.
I'll share our glossary with you later.
I know. We really do need a glossary. We actually need to put something online, but this is incredible. So how can we be more inclusive, kind of in the languages, kind of in the words we use, right? And is it about, again, we know, diversifying who gets to make the decision to put the right people in the room, but from your perspective, how can we be more inclusive in those languages? Because when you were talking, I reacted to some of those words, especially as a photographer, knowing with the flash, and so I could connect. And I was like, we need better words.
We do.
Yeah, so how can we be more inclusive? Like, how can we make a conscious effort?
Yeah, like how do I leave the viewers thinking with something? What can you do today,
exactly.
right, to change this? Okay, so I guess I'll share building blocks that we used in our own inclusive tech terminology initiative at Deloitte to show you all the different spaces where you can go and kind of axe out those non-inclusive instances. So the first one is starting with the spaces that you connect in, right? We took this to a lot of our leadership panels. We actually had, partners and our leaders sign up to charity pledges where they said, if I say the word and someone calls me out, I'm going to put 20 pounds in a jar, right?
Hey.
And that actually creates a little bit of an incentive for community education, right? So talking about those lunch and learns, talking about these educational grassroots campaigns, taking this to spaces like Women in Tech, for example, and having a conversation about that. And I think one of the most powerful things we saw was when we introduced this into our onboarding decks for clients. So when we were talking to clients and saying, hey, this is a project we're going to run, a big part of our team is actually the use of inclusive language. That opened up a whole realm of being able to talk about other intersectional sides of diversity, because people said, okay, if this is a team that prioritizes inclusive terminology in tech, then they're a team who prioritizes parental leave and flexibility and etc. So that kind of starts with like the daily conversations. That's part one. Part two, I'd say, is your tech tools. So one of the things we did was we actually worked with our communication channels. So Teams, Slack, for example, which a lot of people will know here. And there are tools built into that which are called like automotive bots. So we built like a Slack bot or a Teams bot that can auto-suggest inclusive alternatives.
That's great.
So if as a developer I'm typing, just push that to the master branch, Slack will automatically come up and say, hey, did you know that this has racial undertones for this reason? Maybe you could use X, Y, Z instead. And that goes beyond kind of that active learning to also, passive ingrained learning as well. So that's like your building block number two. Building block number three is actually getting into like the hard tech of it, right? Like looking at your code base. We've actually run pilots with public sector and a couple of private sector clients as well, focused on rewriting their test framework. So converting those non-inclusive instances to inclusive ones, rewriting your Confluence glossary of terms, rewriting your GitHub repositories. And like actually changing those hard-rooted terms is something that if you do in your main frameworks, kind of echoes out into the rest of the project, which can run like a year long or 2 years long, etc. But I think the really most powerful and kind of building block number 4, I'd say, is taking that from individual projects maybe to like scaled industry change, right? And that's kind of what everyone here at Women in Tech is about. So we actually worked with a software partner of ours. We kind of dug through their training material and their API platform itself to look for those non-inclusive terms. For example, we found some gendered pronouns. We found instances of like whitelist, blacklist, etc. And in all transparency and honesty, we took this to them and said, we're partners. We can be better for the industry. And their senior vice president of product loved it so much that he actually set up a team to work for a year that focused on axing out these non-inclusive instances, right? From everything, from their training materials, from their API platform. And that's where you really start to take a conversation that, you know, me and you are having to an industry movement, right? And if you can do that with one client, you can do it anywhere else, right? So I guess I challenge people in the audience today to think about those small focus groups, those lunch and learns, those conversations, but then take it to your tech tools, right? Take it to your projects, rewrite the code base, you know, axe out what's like hard coded into the systems we are building our future technologies on, and then also take it to an industry movement. Challenge your software partner, challenge the people you work with every day to build those tools with to make the industry better.
That was incredible. That was incredible. And, you know, just getting the buy-in from kind of the C-suite and showing that this is how you can take diversity and inclusion and actually make it tangible.
Yes.
And not just like, oh, how can we implement it? These are real, tangible ways you can implement it throughout. So, Simran, that's incredible. Thank you so much. Yeah, no, I'm really... I'm now going to go look for that glossary of words now.
Oh, yeah, I can share it with you. Yeah, I'll see you in the room.
Yeah, no, but just check out more of our work. I think it's really fascinating. And I would like to learn more of those words, you know, that we can all kind of root out the unconscious bias that's been built and baked into technology. So thank you so much for joining.
Yeah, I think a really interesting stat I just like drop in is that actually there was this really amazing study that OpenReach did focused on if you intentionally change that language in kind of adverts and recruitment adverts that now become intentionally a little bit more gender inclusive, you can actually get a 200% uplift in female candidates applying. So that is the power of tech and changing our
women in tech. Absolutely. No, thank you so much.
Great,
and thanks
thank
for that stat. Yeah.
Lovely to meet you.
Just keep doing the incredible work you're doing. It's really important.
Same with you.
Thank you.